In this video, we're going to talk a little more about how you can say no to something you don't want to do or don't want to commit to in a polite and elegant way. Hi, how are you? Welcome to the Etiquette and Protocol channel. I'm Juliana Santiago, a teacher and etiquette specialist. And today we're going to talk a little more about how you can say no. You'll refuse an invitation, you'll turn down an offer without feeling bad, without feeling guilty, and without thinking you're offending the other person. And you'll go through this process in a lighter, calmer way so you won't feel uncomfortable and you won't get desperate either, making the other person think that you're not interested in their proposal or that you don't care about them. Well, before we talk a little about how you're actually going to do this, it's important for us to understand what it means to say no. I know that for some people, saying no is very difficult, and only a few people can actually say no, refuse something, and feel at ease with it. You go there and say, "No, I don't want to," and you feel fine. Some people even say that, but I think they might even be lying. But the fact is, the more you learn to say no, to choose the things you want to do and actually want to take part in, you also start learning to say no more often. So the more you say it, the more you learn to deal with it. And here we are talking about turning down offers, invitations, events, opportunities, but in a polite way. Because etiquette is very much related to that. Etiquette is about caring for others, making the other person feel good, showing empathy, consideration, and respect for others. That's why even if you don't want to do something, we shouldn't belittle the offer or what the other person is offering us. So it's essential that we act when the other person is present.
Não está indo de contra a etiqueta.
Of course, there will always be a better way for you to refuse something without upsetting the other person or making them feel like they're not important to you. One thing I want you who has trouble saying no to keep in mind is that often we don't have all the time in the world. Time today is truly a very limited resource. So, as much as you want to take on many commitments and professional demands, it's important for you to understand that sometimes it's not that you don't want to be there or don't want to participate, but you also need to realize that many times you just can't. So learning to say no in a gentle and respectful way will also help you avoid some anxiety. Because sometimes you have so many work demands that you end up taking on throughout the day, throughout the month, and then you can't keep up and end up feeling anxious. Or sometimes you have so many social commitments that you agreed to, and then you feel bad for not being able to attend them all. So today we're going to understand how you can actually say no and also free yourself in your decisions and feel good. Because many times when we say no, we interpret it inside ourselves, right? We interpret it as something negative, as if we were doing something bad to someone. Because in life, even in childhood, many times we had to say yes to many things we didn't want to do. And sometimes that stayed inside us. But we grew up, we reached a mature stage in life, and now we have to handle saying no. But yes, we need to do it in a certain way, in a gentle, empathetic manner, with consideration and respect for others. So, have you already understood a bit of this introduction and what this video is going to cover today? So now I'm going to tell you how you can actually say no in a respectful way. The first point for you to start saying no in a polite way is not to say no immediately. I know it sounds a bit confusing, but I'll explain. When you receive an invitation or an offer, never say no right away. For example, someone comes to me and asks, "Juliana, I have an invitation to my son's birthday party. Do you want to go?" And then I say no. Never say no like that immediately because it can come across in a very negative way. It might seem like you're not interested in being there with that person, in interacting with them, or that their event isn't important to you. So for example, someone comes up to you at work and asks, Juliana, can you help me with this project? And I say, no, I can't. So you have to be very careful when you say no. To do this in a more respectful and considerate way, it's a good idea to appreciate the offer the person is making to you. So it's very different, for example, when I go to someone and say, for example, in the same case of the son's party, let's use this same example. I come and say, wow, that's amazing. He's already celebrating another year of life. How time flies. No, unfortunately, I won't be able to go. We're going to talk a little about sentence structure throughout this video. But you immediately saw that the way I spoke already had a completely different impact. Because I valued the event that mother is organizing, the child's birthday. This also happens at work. Wow, it's amazing that you want my help. I'm really happy to know that I can be helpful on this project. But this time I can't help. So just the way you express this initial gratitude, the appreciation for the idea, the invitation, the proposal made, the request being made, it already feels completely different. The way we build our sentence and the way the other person actually hears that no. So it's important that whenever you're going to say no, first point, never say no right away. Continuing the construction of our approach and our polite no, first, we have the moment to appreciate the invitation being offered. And then we say that unfortunately I can't attend, unfortunately I can't participate or meet that request. And then it's important that you give a reason. I recommend that this explanation be a truthful one so that you can really show that you truly can't be there. Wow, I can't go to your son's party because I already have another commitment. I don't recommend going into too much detail now as it could complicate things for you. But it's important for you to emphasize that why won't you be able to attend a certain event or take on that work assignment? For example, I thank you for the opportunity to participate in this project and for having asked me. Then I say, unfortunately, I can't take on this task because I already have many other work assignments. So unfortunately, I can't participate in this project. So seeing how the sentence structure changes, let's recap with the example about the sun. Look how interesting it would be if we use what I taught earlier along with what's coming now. See how the construction of this sentence turns out. I would say, wow, but he's already celebrating another year of life. Time goes by so fast, I'm sure it's going to be a beautiful party. Wow, unfortunately this time I won't be able to attend because I already have another commitment. See, I was quick, I was simple, I was gentle with my words. I said no since I wouldn't be able to attend. I managed to commit to this event, and even so, I didn't put the other person down. It's much better than sometimes saying things like, wow, I'll see if I can stop by, or phrases like that. If you already know you won't be able to go to a certain place or meet a work demand, let them know right away. It's much better and will spare you a lot of anxiety. Many times we end up feeling anxious because we have too many demands, we made too many commitments, and we just didn't know how to say no. We didn't put ourselves first either. And even for the other person, many times, it's better for them to understand right away that unfortunately you won't be able to meet that work demand, or even that you won't be able to attend that event. I know that for some people saying no has a very strong meaning because it can give you a feeling that you're missing out on something sometimes, especially at social events. Wow, if I say I'm not going to that party, I feel bad, I really wanted to go. But that's the thing, we have to choose. Unfortunately, we can't be everywhere at the same time either. And if you already know it's not possible for you, it's more effective for your relationship with the other person to mention right away that unfortunately you won't be there, in a gentle way, like we're seeing here in this video. An important point when you say no is the way you use the intonation of your sentence. It's a good idea to use a more upbeat tone of voice at the beginning to highlight the invitation and the opportunity that was offered to you. And then you should say no. At the end of the sentence, you should actually finish the sentence. For example, when you say that you can't be at a party, you value that event, like we've already used as an example here. We say that it won't be possible for you to go to the party, and then we say that we have another commitment. When I end that sentence by saying I have another commitment, it's essential that you finish your sentence there and even start another topic right away. Why? Because that doesn't give the person a chance to bring up something else like, oh, make an effort. Wow, you never come to my events. So be really precise with your tone. Another point that also reinforces this issue of tone is if you talk to the person carelessly, right? You go up to her and say, no, I can't go. I have another commitment. Notice the difference. That's why starting with a compliment is key to how you phrase it. So, never forget to look for that positive tone. And in this case, it's important for us to emphasize here. If the person keeps pushing you, wow, you never come to my events. Going back to this topic a bit, one thing I really recommend you do is to reinforce, wow, I really have another commitment. Period. End the sentence. Because then you don't give the person a chance to keep insisting with you and you end up in an awkward situation. Just move on to another topic, start talking about something else, bring up another subject to discuss because that will be better for you and the topic will be closed. So we've already understood a bit about how we're going to construct this sentence and how we're going to project our voice in terms of intonation and sentence structure, the intonation of the sentence when we speak and say no. Now we also need to talk about possible alternatives. Many times, in fact, you're saying that no, but it's not really an official no, right? You could give that person another option. If it really works, or if you want to give an alternative, you can also do that at the end of the sentence. See how it turns out so you can understand. Wow, I'm really happy that you invited me to join this project, but unfortunately I can't participate because I've already taken on other commitments because of other work demands. What if we moved this project to next month? Would that be possible? Because then I could participate. See, I gave an alternative because besides showing that the project is interesting, I actually want to participate in that project with my coworkers. So if it's something you really want to be present at, want to participate in, you can offer an alternative at the end. The same goes for social events. In the case of a party, it's a little harder because the party already has a set date. So if you have 2 or 3 events on the same day, sometimes you really will have to choose what's best for you. But in the case of events like a lunch with friends, a dinner, a get-together, for example, you can say, wow, I really wanted to join this lunch with the group, but unfortunately I can't because I have another commitment. Could we maybe schedule it for next week? Is it possible to organize it next week? I'd really like to join. So if it's really something you want to be present at, you can offer some alternatives in your response and at the end of your sentence. But remember to only give alternatives when it's actually something that interests you. It's not wrong to think about ourselves. Many times we think that we're being a little selfish when we think about ourselves. But many times we need to think about what we want, about what really makes sense for us. Which moments we want to experience, with which people we want to connect, and all of this builds our daily lives. As I already mentioned here in this video, we have the time factor. And many times, even in social situations, social events, parties, they are special moments for us. Our free time is special time. That more social time is our free time. So it's essential that you think about how you want to use it in the best way. For example, let's say you get an invitation to have lunch at your sister's house. Then you mention, wow, this lunch sounds delicious. I'm sure the food is going to be wonderful. But today, unfortunately, I can't because I need to take care of some things at home that I still need to do. So shall we schedule the lunch for next week? If that makes sense to you, you can mention it. If not, just end it there. But it's not wrong to say no. You're not being selfish. That's another topic I want to discuss with you. Learn to say no. Don't be afraid or insecure about saying no. As I mentioned before, you're not a selfish person for, at a certain moment, wanting to do something different from what was suggested to you. Or many times not wanting to take on a work request because your schedule is already full and it's impossible for you to fit it in. Many times we're afraid to say no. Not just because it might seem like we're being selfish, but also, as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, in childhood we had to do a lot of things we didn't like. Sometimes your mom would tell you to go take a bath and you didn't want to, but you had to take a bath because it's important. Sometimes you had to do your homework. So we got used to saying yes, yes, yes. And it feels like when we say no, we're actually even hurting someone. Or even showing that it's not important to us. Or that we're belittling people or the events, the invitations we've been given. But we need to have a clear idea that learning to say no is a very big sign of maturity, which is essential for building our relationships. And even for your relationship with that other person to improve and develop. Because sometimes you end up committing yourself saying you'll do something and then you can't. And that's bad for you and for the impression you make on the other person. Not to mention that taking on commitments you can't actually fulfill or be present for is really, very impolite. It's even kind of rude. And speaking of rude, I've already made a video here on the channel about things that rude people do. So I'll leave it here on the side for you to watch. Are you a rude person? Click on the video to find out. See you later.